The mother of the groom rises from her chair in the front row of the church, her Chanel suit perfectly pressed, her voice cutting through the sacred silence like a blade. "Get out," that is what she says. "Get out of my family, out of this church, and out of my son's life. You do not belong here. You never did." The bride stands at the altar, her white dress pooling around her feet, her hands trembling around a bouquet of white roses and baby's breath. She is 24 years old. She weighs 118 pounds. She has worked 3 jobs for the past 6 years to put herself through school. And right now, in this moment, with 400 guests watching and camera phones recording, she does not move. She does not cry. She does not shrink. She simply waits because she knows something that Victoria Ashford does not. She knows what is coming. She knows the truth that has been buried for exactly 9 years, 2 months, and 14 days. And she knows that when it surfaces, nothing in the Ashford family will ever be the same. The groom reaches for his bride's hand. His father sits frozen in the front pew, his face the color of ash. And somewhere in the back of the church, a woman rises to her feet, a woman no one was expecting, a woman who holds the key to everything. But this is not where the story begins. To understand what happens next, to understand why Victoria Ashford will fall to her knees before this ceremony ends, we need to go back. 3 years earlier, a coffee shop on the corner of 5th and Morrison, where 2 worlds are about to collide. The rain comes down in sheets on a Tuesday afternoon in October, the kind of rain that turns the streets of Portland into rivers and sends people rushing for cover under awnings and into doorways. Maya Johnson pushes through the door of the Copper Kettle at exactly 4:47 p.m., her scrubs soaked through, her natural hair pulled back in a protective style that has seen better days. She has been on her feet for 14 hours. She has lost 2 patients. She has performed CPR for 23 minutes on a 6-year-old boy who did not make it. And now all she wants is a cup of coffee and 5 minutes of silence before she takes the bus back to her apartment in the Cully neighborhood, where she will study for another 3 hours before collapsing into a bed she shares with textbooks and dreams that feel further away every day. The coffee shop is warm and smells like cinnamon and espresso, and Maya allows herself one moment of peace as she joins the line. There are 4 people ahead of her, a businessman checking his phone, a mother with a toddler on her hip, 2 teenage girls giggling over something on a screen, and then him. She does not notice him at first because she is not looking. She is thinking about the boy, about his mother's screams, about the way his small hand felt in hers, still warm, as she called the time of death. She is thinking about whether she can afford both coffee and dinner tonight, or whether she needs to choose. She is thinking about the exam on Friday that will determine whether she advances in her residency program. She is not thinking about love or romance or the way fate works when you least expect it. But then the line moves, and she moves with it, and somehow her foot catches on the strap of someone's bag, and suddenly she is falling forward, her arms windmilling, her dignity evaporating. She braces for impact with the hardwood floor. The impact does not come. Instead, there are hands. Strong hands catching her shoulders, steadying her, keeping her upright. And then there is a voice, warm and concerned and unexpectedly gentle. Hey, I got you. You okay?" Maya looks up into the face of the most beautiful man she has ever seen. He has dark hair that falls across his forehead, green eyes the color of sea glass, and a smile that transforms his entire face when he sees that she is not hurt. He is wearing a cashmere sweater that probably costs more than her monthly rent. His watch is a Rolex. His shoes are Italian leather. Everything about him screams money, old money, the kind of wealth that builds hospitals and names buildings and decides who matters in this world. Maya should thank him and walk away. She should recognize the gulf between them and not even attempt to bridge it. She should know her place, as Victoria Ashford will later tell her she should have known. Instead, she laughs. It bubbles up from somewhere she thought had gone dormant, this laughter, surprising her as much as it surprises him. She laughs because she has been awake for 32 hours and just tripped over a bag in a coffee shop and is being held upright by a stranger who looks like he walked out of a magazine, and the absurdity of it all is too much. She laughs because if she does not laugh, she will cry. And she has done enough crying today. He laughs too, and that is how it begins. His name is James Ashford. He is 26 years old, heir to the Ashford Development Corporation, which owns 47% of the commercial real estate in downtown Portland and has been in his family for 4 generations. He was raised in a 17,000 square foot mansion in the West Hills. He attended Phillips Academy, then Princeton, then Wharton for his MBA. He drives a car that costs more than most people's houses. He has never taken public transportation. He has never worried about money, not once, not even for a moment. He has never wondered whether he could afford both coffee and dinner. And yet, when Maya tries to apologize and extract herself from the situation, when she mumbles something about being sorry and starts to turn away, he stops her. "Wait, please, at least let me buy you a coffee. You look like you could use one." She should say no. She knows she should say no. But there is something in his eyes, something genuine and curious and oddly vulnerable that makes her hesitate. And in that hesitation, he smiles again, and she feels something shift inside her chest, a lock clicking open that she did not even know was there. "One coffee," she says, "and then I have to go." They sit at a corner table for 3 hours. The coffee grows cold, the rain continues to fall, and Maya finds herself talking about things she has never told anyone, not her mother, not her friends, not the therapist the hospital mandated after the incident last year. She tells him about the boy who died today, about the weight of small lives in her hands. She tells him about her father, who died when she was 15, who was a janitor at Good Samaritan Hospital and worked nights so he could walk her to school every morning. She tells him about her mother, who cleaned houses in the West Hills for 23 years, whose hands are permanently rough from chemicals, who still sends her $10 every month even though Maya begs her not to. She tells him about medical school, about the debt, about the 17-hour shifts, and the patients who look at her and ask to see a real doctor because they cannot believe the black woman in scrubs is the one who will be saving their lives. She tells him everything, and he listens. He does not interrupt. He does not offer solutions or platitudes. He does not check his phone or glance at his watch. He simply listens, as if her words are the most important thing he has ever heard. And when she finishes, when she looks up and realizes how much she has revealed to this stranger, she feels suddenly exposed, vulnerable, embarrassed. She starts to apologize. He stops her. "You are extraordinary," he says, and the way he says it, she almost believes him. They meet again the next day, and the day after that. By the end of the week, James is picking her up from the hospital at the end of her shifts, waiting in his ridiculous car with coffee and sandwiches from the deli she mentioned liking once. By the end of the month, they are inseparable. He shows up at her tiny apartment in Cully and does not comment on the size or the neighborhood or the secondhand furniture. Instead, he notices the books. Hundreds of them, lining every wall, stacked on every surface. Medical textbooks, yes, but also philosophy and history and literature and science. He pulls out a worn copy of Baldwin and turns to her with something like wonder. "You have read this," he says. It is not a question. She has read everything. She has been reading since she was 3 years old, since her father brought home discarded books from the hospital's waiting rooms and taught her that knowledge was the one thing no one could take away. She does not tell James this, not yet. But she watches him browse her shelves with a kind of reverence, and she feels something dangerous blooming in her chest. Hope. It is hope, and she knows better than to let it take root, but she cannot seem to stop it. By the second month, he has met her mother. Dolores Johnson is 61 years old, with silver threading through her hair and hands that tell the story of a lifetime of labor. She serves James iced tea in glasses that do not match and watches him carefully from across her kitchen table. He compliments the cornbread. He asks about her garden. He listens to her stories about Maya as a child, about the time Maya set up a hospital for injured birds in the backyard and stayed up all night researching avian medicine in books from the library. He laughs in all the right places. He does not look at his phone once. When he leaves, Dolores pulls Maya aside. "Be careful, baby," she says. "His hands have never known work. People like that, they do not understand what it means to build a life from nothing. They think love is enough. It is not. Love cannot pay rent. Love cannot protect you from their world." Maya knows her mother is right. She knows it in her bones, in her blood, in the generations of wisdom that have been passed down through her family like heirlooms. She knows that James Ashford comes from a world that has never had room for women like her, that his family built their fortune on land that was stolen, and labor that was exploited, and systems that were designed to keep people like Maya exactly where she is. She knows all of this. And still, when James calls that night, when he tells her that he cannot stop thinking about her, when he says that he has never met anyone like her, and he does not care what anyone else thinks, she believes him. She believes him because she wants to. She believes him because hope is a stubborn thing, and hers has survived worse than this. She believes him because she is falling in love, and love makes fools of us all. 3 months into their relationship, James brings Maya to meet his parents for the first time. The Ashford estate sits behind iron gates on a private road in the West Hills, 3 acres of manicured grounds, surrounding a house that looks like it belongs in a European countryside rather than the Pacific Northwest. Maya has researched the family, of course. She is a researcher by nature and by training, and she does not walk into any situation uninformed. She knows that Richard Ashford built the family fortune into what it is today, that he sits on the boards of 7 corporations and 3 hospitals and donates millions to causes that will put his name on buildings. She knows that Victoria Ashford was a debutante from one of Boston's oldest families, that she chairs the Symphony Board and the Art Museum Council and has never, in her 62 years, associated with anyone who did not meet her exacting standards. She knows that James has a younger sister named Caroline, who is 23 and finishing her doctorate at Stanford, who was diagnosed with leukemia at age 14 and survived because of a bone marrow transplant from an anonymous donor. Maya knows all of this, but knowing is not the same as understanding, and nothing could have prepared her for Victoria Ashford. The dinner is served in a formal dining room that could fit Maya's entire apartment inside it. There are more forks beside her plate than Maya has in her entire kitchen. The chandelier above the table costs more than her education. And Victoria Ashford looks at Maya like she is something unpleasant that has been tracked in on the bottom of someone's shoe. "You are a resident," Victoria says, making the word sound like an accusation. "At Good Samaritan?" "Yes," Maya says, "emergency medicine." "I see." Victoria's smile does not reach her eyes. "And your family, what do they do?" "My father passed away when I was 15, Maya says. She keeps her voice steady, refuses to look away. "He was a custodian at the same hospital where I work now. My mother is retired. She spent 23 years as a domestic worker." She pauses, just long enough to let the words land. "She cleaned houses in the West Hills, actually. Perhaps you knew some of her employers." The silence that follows is suffocating. Richard Ashford clears his throat and asks about the weather. Caroline, who arrived late and has been watching the exchange with curious eyes, suddenly becomes very interested in her soup. James reaches under the table and takes Maya's hand, squeezing gently. Maya does not squeeze back. She is watching Victoria, watching the way the woman's face cycles through shock and distaste, and something that looks almost like fear. And she understands, in that moment, exactly what she is dealing with. This is not simply snobbery. This is not just classism or even racism, though it is both of those things too. This is terror. Victoria Ashford is terrified of Maya, of what she represents, of the possibility that her son might choose a world that Victoria cannot control. And fear, Maya knows, is the most dangerous emotion of all. The dinner ends early. James drives Maya home in silence, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. When they pull up outside her building, he turns to her with tears in his eyes. "I am sorry," he says. "I am so sorry." She looks at him for a long moment. She thinks about her mother's warning. She thinks about the way Victoria looked at her, like she was nothing. She thinks about all the reasons this will never work, all the obstacles in their path, all the pain that is coming. And then she leans across the console and kisses him, because love is stubborn and hope is resilient, and Maya Johnson has never backed down from a fight in her life. "We are going to be okay," she tells him, but even as she says it, she is not sure she believes it. 6 months into the relationship, Victoria Ashford makes her move. It is a Thursday afternoon in April when Maya receives a call asking her to come to the Ashford estate. James will not be there. Richard is traveling. It is just Victoria, waiting in the sunroom with a pot of tea and an envelope. Maya considers not going. She has a shift that ends at 2, and she has been on her feet for 16 hours, and the last thing she wants is another confrontation with a woman who has made her contempt abundantly clear. But something makes her go anyway. Call it curiosity, call it stubbornness, call it the part of her that refuses to be intimidated, no matter how powerful the adversary. Victoria is wearing a cream-colored dress and pearls, her posture perfect, her face a mask of controlled pleasantness. She gestures to the chair across from her. "Please, sit." Maya sits. She does not touch the tea. "I am going to be direct with you," Victoria says, "because I believe you are a direct person, despite your other failings. My son believes he is in love with you. He believes you are going to be his wife. He is, of course, mistaken." Victoria slides the envelope across the table. Inside that envelope is a check for $500,000. It is made out to you. It will clear immediately. In exchange, you will end your relationship with my son today. You will not contact him again. You will disappear from his life completely. If you refuse, I will make it my personal mission to destroy your career. I sit on the board of 3 hospitals in this city, including Good Samaritan. I have relationships with every major healthcare system in the Pacific Northwest. One phone call from me, and you will never practice medicine again. Not here, not anywhere. Maya looks at the envelope. She does not open it. She does not touch it. Instead, she looks at Victoria, and when she speaks, her voice is calm, steady, almost gentle. "Mrs. Ashford, do you know why I became a doctor?" Victoria blinks, thrown by the question. "I beg your pardon?" "I became a doctor because when I was 15 years old, I watched my father die in a hospital waiting room," she says. "He had a heart attack at work. The ambulance took 23 minutes to arrive because we lived in the wrong zip code. By the time they got him to the ER, it was too late. The attending physician spent 6 minutes with us. 6 minutes, and then he moved on to the next patient because there were always more patients, and my father was just another name on a chart." Maya pauses. She watches Victoria's face, sees the first flicker of something that might be discomfort. "I sat with my mother in that waiting room for 4 hours before anyone came to talk to us. 4 hours. And when they finally did, they could not even tell us his name. They called him John Doe. My father worked in that hospital for 12 years, and they did not even know his name." Maya stands. She does not raise her voice. She does not need to. "I am not with your son for his money, Mrs. Ashford. I am with him because he sees me, because he listens to me, because he makes me laugh and challenges me and treats me like an equal. I have worked 16-hour shifts to pay for my education. I have performed CPR on children who did not survive. I have held dying patients' hands because there was no one else to hold them. I do not need your money. I do not need your approval, and I am not going anywhere." She turns to leave. Victoria's voice follows her. "You think you are strong. You think you can survive in our world, but you do not know what you are up against. You do not know what I am capable of." Maya pauses at the door. She looks back at Victoria Ashford, at this woman who has spent her entire life building walls around her family, around her wealth, around her heart. And she feels something unexpected. She feels pity. "I know exactly what you are capable of, Mrs. Ashford," she says, "and I am not afraid of you. But I think someday you might be afraid of yourself, and then you will have to live with that." She leaves without another word. James proposes on a Wednesday evening in September, 1 year after they met in the coffee shop. He takes her to the Copper Kettle after closing, having rented out the entire space and filled it with candles and flowers. He gets down on one knee with a ring that belonged to his grandmother, a simple diamond on a platinum band, and asks her to spend the rest of her life with him. Maya says yes. The fallout is immediate and devastating. Victoria issues an ultimatum. If James marries Maya, he will be cut off from the family entirely. No inheritance, no position in the company, no access to the family homes, the accounts, the connections that have defined his entire existence. Richard, ever the diplomat, tries to broker peace, but Victoria will not bend. She has made her decision. James must choose. Maya tells him to think carefully. She tells him that she does not want him to wake up in 10 years, resenting her for what he gave up. She tells him that she loves him, but love is not enough if it comes at the cost of his entire identity. James looks at her across the kitchen table in her tiny apartment, This woman who has worked harder than anyone he has ever known, who saves lives while his family counts money, who has shown him what it means to build something real instead of inheriting something given. He thinks about his mother's ultimatum. He thinks about the mansion in the West Hills, the corner office waiting for him, the life that has been planned since before he was born. And then he thinks about the way Maya laughs when she is tired, the way she talks to patients with a gentleness that makes them feel seen, the way she looks at him like he is more than his last name, more than his bank account, more than the sum of his family's expectations. The choice is not hard. I choose you, he says. I will always choose you. Victoria follows through on her threat. James is cut off completely. He moves into Maya's apartment in Cully, gets a job at a nonprofit that does urban development in underserved communities, learns what it means to live without a safety net for the first time in his life. It is hard. There are fights about money, about expectations, about the chasm between their experiences. There are moments when Maya wonders if she has ruined his life, moments when James wonders if he made the right choice. But there are also moments of grace. There is the morning he makes her pancakes before a double shift, the shape of them slightly wrong, burned on the edges, the best thing she has ever tasted. There is the night she comes home to find him reading her old medical textbooks, trying to understand her world. There is the way they build a life together, piece by piece, dollar by dollar, argument by argument. It is not easy. It is not perfect. But it is theirs. And then, 16 months after the proposal, something changes. Richard Ashford has a heart attack. The call comes at 3:47 a.m. on a Saturday. James's phone lights up with a number he has not seen in over a year, and Maya watches his face go pale in the glow of the screen. His father is in the ICU at Oregon Health Sciences University. The prognosis is uncertain. Victoria is asking for him. Maya drives him to the hospital. She parks in the lot and starts to turn off the engine, assuming she will wait in the car, but James shakes his head. "Come with me," he says. "Please, I cannot do this alone." They walk into the hospital together, into the world Maya knows better than anywhere else, into the fluorescent lights and antiseptic smell and quiet desperation of a family waiting to hear whether their loved one will live or die. Victoria is in the waiting room, her makeup smeared, her hair disheveled, looking smaller and older and more human than Maya has ever seen her. When she sees James, she rises to her feet. When she sees Maya, something flickers across her face. Contempt, yes, but also something else, something like surprise. "You came," Victoria says to James. "Of course I came. He is my father." Victoria nods slowly. Then she looks at Maya, really looks at her, perhaps for the first time. Her voice is barely a whisper. "I did not expect you to come." Maya says nothing. There is nothing to say. She is here because James asked her to be. She is here because whatever Victoria Ashford has done, Richard is still James's father, and James is still the man she loves. She is here because that is what you do for the people you love. You show up. The doctors come out an hour later. Richard needs emergency bypass surgery. His chances are 50-50. Victoria collapses into a chair, her composure finally cracking, and for one strange moment, Maya finds herself sitting beside this woman who has done everything in her power to destroy her. They do not speak. They do not touch. But they sit together in the waiting room, watching the same clock, praying to the same God, hoping for the same outcome. The surgery takes 7 hours. Richard survives. And in the weeks that follow, something shifts. It is not forgiveness. It is not reconciliation. But it is something. A ceasefire. A recognition that life is short and fragile and precious. That grudges are heavy things to carry into the grave. James visits his father in the hospital. Victoria does not object. Maya stays in the background, not pushing, not demanding, simply being present. And slowly, incrementally, the walls begin to come down. The wedding is planned for June, 2 years after James proposed. It will be a small ceremony, just family and close friends, held at a vineyard in the Willamette Valley. James's relationship with his parents is still complicated, still fragile, but they have agreed to come. Even Victoria, who has not apologized, who may never apologize, has accepted the invitation. It is progress. It is not everything Maya hoped for, but it is something. In the months leading up to the wedding, Maya throws herself into her work. She has finished her residency and taken a position as an attending physician in the emergency department at Good Samaritan. She works 60-hour weeks. She teaches medical students. She runs free clinics in underserved neighborhoods on her days off. She is building the life she always dreamed of, the life her father would have been proud of, and she refuses to let anyone take that from her. But there is something else happening, something Maya does not know about, something that has been set in motion by a woman she has never met. Her name is Patricia Chen. She is 64 years old, a retired nurse who spent 30 years working in hospital administration, and she has been waiting for exactly the right moment to come forward. Patricia was working at Oregon Health Sciences University 9 years ago when a 14-year-old girl named Carolyn Ashford was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. The cancer was aggressive. Carolyn needed a bone marrow transplant. The odds of finding a match were 1 in 20,000, but they found one. A 17-year-old girl from Northeast Portland, a girl who had registered as a donor at a community health fair because her mother told her that helping others was the most important thing a person could do. A girl who went through the donation process alone because her mother was working and could not take the day off, who endured the pain and the needles and the recovery without complaint because she believed she was saving a life. A girl named Maya Johnson. The donation was anonymous. The Ashfords never knew who saved their daughter. Patricia kept the records, as she kept all records, because she believed that someday someone might need to know. And then, 3 months ago, she read an article in the Portland Tribune about the Ashford family, about the son who had given up his inheritance to marry a young black doctor from the Cully neighborhood, about the family tension, about the mother who had tried to pay the woman to leave. Patricia recognized Maya's name. She recognized the hospital. She put the pieces together, and she decided it was time. The wedding day arrives with clear skies and temperatures in the low 70s, the kind of Pacific Northwest day that feels like a gift. Maya wakes at dawn, looks at the man sleeping beside her, and feels something she has not felt in a long time: peace. The ceremony is set for 4 o'clock. By 2, Maya is dressed and ready, surrounded by her mother and her bridesmaids, taking photographs in the vineyard's garden. James is somewhere on the other side of the property, being corralled by his groomsmen, probably nervous, probably pacing. Maya is not nervous. She has never been more certain of anything in her life. The guests begin arriving at 3. Maya watches from a window as familiar faces file in, friends from medical school, colleagues from the hospital, neighbors from the old apartment building. She watches James's family arrive. Richard walking slowly with a cane, Caroline pushing him toward the front row, Victoria trailing behind in a pale blue dress that probably costs more than Maya's wedding gown. Maya watches Victoria sit down, straight-backed, proud, still holding herself apart. And she feels something unexpected. She feels ready to face this woman, ready to prove that love is stronger than hate, ready to step into this family, not as an intruder, but as an equal. But then something happens. A woman Maya does not recognize approaches Victoria. They speak briefly. Victoria's face changes. It goes pale, then red, then pale again. She rises from her seat and follows the woman to a private room at the back of the venue. Maya frowns. Something is wrong. She can feel it. She starts to move toward the door, but her mother's hand stops her. Not now, baby. Whatever it is, it can wait. Maya hesitates. She looks at the closed door. She looks at her mother. She looks at the clock, which shows 3:47 p.m. 13 minutes until the ceremony begins. She should wait. She should trust that whatever is happening will resolve itself. But Maya has never been good at waiting, and she has never been good at ignoring her instincts. She walks toward the door. The room is small and dimly lit, lined with wine barrels and smelling of oak and fermentation. Victoria is standing by the far wall, her back to the door, her shoulders shaking. The woman Maya does not recognize is beside her, speaking quietly, holding out a folder. Maya pushes the door open. Victoria whirls around, and Maya sees something she has never seen before on this woman's face: tears. Victoria Ashford is crying. What is going on? Maya asks. The woman turns to face her. She is older, with gray hair and kind eyes, and the unmistakable air of someone who has spent her life in healthcare. "Ms. Johnson," she says, "my name is Patricia Chen. I have been looking for you for a long time." Maya frowns. "Looking for me? Why?" Patricia holds out the folder. "Because 9 years ago, you saved a life. You probably do not remember. You were 17 years old. You went to a community health fair in your neighborhood, and you signed up for the bone marrow registry. 6 months later, you were contacted because you were a match for a patient, a young girl with leukemia. You went through the donation process, you saved her life, and then you went back to your own life, because that is what you do. That is who you are." Maya stares at the folder. She remembers. Of course, she remembers. She remembers the needle, the recovery, the way her mother made her soup for 3 days afterward and told her she was proud. She remembers wondering about the girl, hoping she was okay, never expecting to know. She reaches for the folder. Inside are medical records, consent forms, correspondence from nearly a decade ago. And in the middle of the stack, a photograph. A photograph of a 14-year-old girl with dark hair and pale skin and green eyes, lying in a hospital bed, too thin, too tired, but alive. The same green eyes Maya sees every day. The same green eyes that belong to the man she's about to marry. Maya looks up. She looks at Victoria, at the tears streaming down this woman's face. And finally, impossibly, she understands. The girl she saved. The anonymous donor who gave a stranger a second chance at life. The reason Caroline Ashford survived long enough to finish her doctorate and stand as a bridesmaid at her brother's wedding. It was her. Maya saved Caroline's life, and she never knew, and neither did the Ashfords. Until now. Victoria's voice is barely a whisper. All this time, I tried to destroy you. I tried to pay you to leave. I tried to convince my son that you were beneath him. And you saved my daughter's life." Maya does not know what to say. She is standing in this room, in her wedding dress, holding evidence of a miracle she had forgotten, facing a woman who has been her enemy since the moment they met. She thinks about all the things she could say. She could be gracious. She could be cruel. She could point out the irony, the cosmic joke of it all, the way life has a sense of humor that borders on sadistic. But when she opens her mouth, what comes out is something else entirely. "I did not save her because I wanted anything in return," Maya says. "I saved her because she was someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone who deserved a chance to live. I did not know who she was. I did not need to know. That is not why I did it." Victoria stares at her. Then she does something Maya never expected, something that will stay with her for the rest of her life. Victoria Ashford crosses the room, takes Maya's hands in her own, and bows her head. "I am sorry," Victoria says. "I am so sorry. For everything. I was wrong. I was wrong about you. I was wrong about what matters. I was so focused on protecting my family that I could not see that you were already part of it. That you were part of it before James ever walked into that coffee shop. That you saved the most precious thing I have. Maya, I cannot undo what I have done, but if you will let me, I would like to spend the rest of my life trying to make it right." The silence stretches between them. 9 years of history, 2 years of conflict, a lifetime of assumptions and prejudice and fear. Maya thinks about her father, about the hospital that did not know his name. She thinks about her mother, about the houses she cleaned for families who never saw her as fully human. She thinks about all the ways the world has told her she is not enough, not smart enough, not wealthy enough, not white enough. And then she thinks about James, about Carolyn, about the family she's about to join, with all its flaws and complications and capacity for growth. She thinks about what it means to forgive, what it means to move forward, what it means to choose love over resentment, hope over bitterness, grace over grudge. Maya squeezes Victoria's hands. She takes a deep breath, and she smiles. "The ceremony starts in 10 minutes, she says. "We should probably take our places." Victoria laughs, a wet, surprised sound, and for the first time, Maya sees the woman she might have been. The woman she still could be. The woman who is finally willing to try. The ceremony begins at 4:07 p.m., 7 minutes late, but no one seems to mind. Maya walks down the aisle on her mother's arm, past the friends and colleagues and family members who have gathered to witness this moment, past Richard Ashford sitting in the front row with tears in his eyes, past Caroline, who is crying openly and holding a tissue to her face, past Victoria, who stands when Maya approaches and reaches out to touch her hand briefly, a gesture so small and so significant that only the two of them understand. James is waiting at the altar, and when he sees her, his face transforms. He looks at her like she is the answer to every question he has ever asked, the solution to every problem he has ever faced, the home he has been searching for his entire life. The officiant speaks about love and commitment and partnership, about building a life together, about choosing each other every single day. Maya hears the words, but she is watching James. She is thinking about the coffee shop, the rain, the way he caught her when she fell. She is thinking about how many times she almost walked away, how many obstacles they overcame, how many people told them this would never work. And she is thinking about the girl she saved 9 years ago, the anonymous donation that connected her to this family long before she ever knew they existed. Life is strange. Life is complicated. Life has a way of weaving threads together that you cannot see until you look back and trace the pattern. When James says his vows, his voice breaks. When Maya says hers, she looks directly at Victoria just for a moment, and Victoria nods. They exchange rings. They are pronounced married. And when James kisses her, the room erupts in applause, and Maya feels something shift in the universe, something settling into place, something finally, blessedly right. The reception is held under a tent strung with lights, with music and dancing, and food and wine. Maya dances with James, then with her mother, then with Richard, who moves slowly, but refuses to sit down. She even dances with Victoria, a brief, awkward shuffle that ends with both of them laughing, a sound that would have been impossible 2 hours ago. At some point in the evening, Caroline finds Maya alone by the bar. She is holding a glass of champagne, her eyes red from crying, her smile wide and genuine. "I just found out," Caroline says, "about what you did, about the donation. Maya, I have spent 9 years wondering about the person who saved my life. I wrote letters to you, even though I did not know who you were. I prayed for you. I hoped that somehow, someday, I would get to say thank you." Maya sets down her drink. She takes Caroline's hands. "You do not have to thank me," she says. "You just have to live. Live fully. Live well. That is all I ever wanted." Caroline throws her arms around Maya, holding on like she will never let go. And Maya holds her back. This sister she gained through fate and circumstance, and the strange mathematics of biology, this girl who is alive because Maya said yes to a needle and a registry and a chance to help a stranger. This is what it means to matter. This is what it means to make a difference. This is what it means to love. 3 years later, Maya is sitting in her office at Good Samaritan Hospital when her phone buzzes. It is a text from James, a photograph of their daughter sleeping in her crib, one tiny fist curled against her cheek. The caption reads, "She has your smile." Maya saves the photo. She adds it to the folder on her phone labeled Family, which now contains over 4,000 images. Images of holidays and birthdays and ordinary Tuesdays. Images of her mother teaching her daughter to garden. Images of Victoria reading bedtime stories, her voice softened, her walls finally fully down. Images of a life she never thought she would have. The journey to get here was not easy. There were more fights, more complications, more moments of doubt. Victoria's transformation was not instant or complete. There were setbacks. There were arguments. There were times when Maya wondered if real change was possible, or if some wounds were simply too deep to heal. But they kept trying. They kept showing up. They kept choosing to move forward instead of backward, to build instead of destroy, to love instead of fear. And slowly, over time, something remarkable happened. The family that had once tried to tear them apart became the family that held them together. Richard passed away last year, peacefully, in his sleep, with James holding one hand and Maya holding the other. At his funeral, Victoria spoke about how her husband spent his final years learning to see the world differently, learning to question the assumptions that had governed his life, learning to love people for who they were rather than what they represented. She said that he died grateful for his family, grateful for his grandchild, grateful for the daughter-in-law he had once tried to reject, and who had taught him more about grace than anyone he had ever known. Maya wept. She wept for Richard, yes, but also for her own father. for the man who never got to see her graduate from medical school, never got to walk her down the aisle, never got to hold his granddaughter. She wept for the loss and the love and the complicated tangle of emotions that make up a life. And then she dried her eyes and went back to work, because that is what she has always done. That is who she has always been. A woman who shows up, a woman who heals, a woman who refuses to let pain have the final word. Have you ever looked at someone and decided you knew their story? Have you ever made assumptions based on where they came from, what they wore, the color of their skin, the neighborhood they lived in, the work their parents did? Have you ever been so certain that you were right about someone that you never stopped to ask whether you might be wrong? Most of us have. Most of us do it every day without even realizing it. We sort people into categories, make judgments, build walls around ourselves, and call them protection. We tell ourselves that we are being careful, being smart, being realistic. But what we are really doing is being afraid. Afraid of people who are different from us. Afraid of having our assumptions challenged. Afraid of discovering that the world is more complicated than we want it to be. Maya Johnson saved a stranger's life when she was 17 years old because she believed that every person matters. She believed that you do not need to know someone's name, their background, their family history to recognize their humanity. She believed that a single act of generosity, given freely and without expectation, could change the course of someone's entire existence. She was right. Caroline Ashford is alive because of that belief. She finished her doctorate. She got married. She has a career and a family and a future. She exists in the world, making contributions, forming connections, leaving her mark, because a stranger said yes. And Victoria Ashford, the woman who tried to destroy Maya, who offered her money to disappear, who threatened her career and her livelihood, that woman exists today because of Maya too. Not because Maya saved her life directly, but because Maya showed her what grace looks like. Because Maya refused to become what Victoria expected, refused to hate her back, refused to let prejudice have the final word. Because Maya taught her, through action rather than lecture, that people can surprise you, that judgment is a prison, that change is possible, even when it seems impossible. This is not just Maya's story. It is not just the Ashford story. It is all of our stories, because we all face these moments. Moments when we have to decide whether to see someone or dismiss them. Moments when we have to choose between fear and curiosity, between assumption and understanding, between the easy path and the right one. What would you have done if you were Victoria confronted with a woman who had saved your daughter's life? What would you do tomorrow, faced with someone you think you already know? What will you do the next time you are tempted to judge without learning, to assume without asking, to dismiss without seeing? Maya did not know, when she signed up for that registry at 17, that she was setting in motion a chain of events that would lead to her wedding day, her family, her life. She did not know that her small act of kindness would come back to her multiplied, that the gift she gave freely would become the bridge between two worlds that had been designed to stay apart. She did not know any of that. She just said yes. She just showed up. She just decided that helping a stranger was worth the inconvenience, worth the discomfort, worth the risk. And that decision changed everything. So here is the question I want to leave you with. The question that Maya's story has left me asking myself. What are you willing to give to a stranger? What assumptions are you willing to question? What walls are you willing to take down? Because the truth is, we are all strangers to someone. We are all the person being judged, being dismissed, being underestimated. And we are also all the person doing the judging, making the assumptions, building the walls. The only difference is whether we have the courage to recognize it, whether we have the humility to admit we might be wrong, whether we have the grace to change. Maya changed the Ashford family not by demanding it, not by fighting for it, not by proving herself over and over again. She changed them simply by being herself, by showing up, by refusing to let their limitations define her, and by refusing to let her own pain become her identity. She showed them a different way to be human, and they learned. Slowly, painfully, imperfectly, but they learned. That is the real miracle of this story, not the coincidence of the bone marrow match, not the drama of the wedding revelation, not the satisfying arc of prejudice confronted and overcome. The real miracle is that people can change, that hearts can open, that families can heal, that the story does not have to end the way it began. So today, wherever you are, whoever you are reading or watching this, I want you to think about Maya. Think about Victoria. Think about the stranger you might be dismissing right now, the person you think you already know. And then do something radical. Do something brave. Ask a question. Listen to the answer. Let yourself be surprised. Because you never know. The stranger in front of you might just be the person who saves your life. The person you are judging might just become your family. And the walls you're building might just be the things standing between you and the life you were meant to live. Tear them down. Let people in. Say yes to the registry, the conversation, the coffee, the chance. Say yes to strangers. Say yes to surprise. Say yes to the terrifying, beautiful, unpredictable miracle of human connection. That is what Maya did. And look where it led her. Look where it could lead you.